There's a moment in every relationship that's ending. Not the argument, not the conversation, not the day someone leaves. Before all of that. A specific moment, quiet, ordinary, impossible to point to, where something shifts, where the thing that held two people together loosens slightly, where what was warm becomes something else. You probably remember that moment. Even if you didn't know it was a moment at the time, your dog did too. She started sleeping between you, not at the foot of the bed, between you. A warm, deliberate barrier of fur and loyalty placed exactly in the space where two bodies used to touch. You told yourself she was just being a dog, that she was just being strange. You were wrong. Weeks before the papers were filed, before the rings came off, before the conversations that started with "we need to talk" and ended in silence, the dog already knew. And that is the question that has been sitting inside relationship psychology and animal behavior research for decades. Not whether animals sense tension, but whether they sense the slow, invisible thing underneath, the ending that happens before anything ends. Because if they do, then your animal knows things about your relationship that you haven't admitted to yourself yet. You think your relationship is a private thing. It isn't. Not to your dog. Your relationship is a set of chemical signals, behavioral patterns, and proximity data that a dog processes constantly without ever being asked to. Let's start with chemistry. When two people are in a healthy relationship, physically close, emotionally connected, their bodies produce a specific hormonal profile, oxytocin, the attachment hormone. It rises during physical contact, during laughter, during the ordinary closeness of people who feel safe with each other. It also exits the body through sweat, which means your dog has been nose deep in the chemical signature of your relationship since the day they arrived. But when relationships begin to fracture, the chemistry shifts. Cortisol floods your bloodstream. Adrenaline spikes. Dogs can detect cortisol in human sweat at concentrations as low as parts per trillion. A heated, unspoken tension fills a room with stress hormones that a dog's nose reads as clearly as you read a headline. The hormonal signature of two people who feel safe together slowly becomes the hormonal signature of two people who are guarded, stressed, performing a calm they don't truly feel. Your dog smells that transition. Not the argument, the transition underneath it. But scent is only the beginning. Arguments have a sound. Not just the words, the acoustic architecture. Pitch rises, volume fluctuates, rhythm becomes irregular. Long silences are punctuated by sharp bursts. Dogs process human vocalizations through a specialized region of the auditory cortex, the exact same region they use to process the emotional content of other dogs' distress calls. Researchers at Utrecht Lorand University used fMRI brain scans to show that dogs' brains respond to human emotional vocalizations in ways that are neurologically identical to how humans process each other's emotional speech. When your relationship is fracturing, your dog doesn't hear the content of the disagreement. They don't know whether you're fighting about money, betrayal, or something smaller. They hear the emotional architecture, and that architecture signals a social threat, an instability in the very structure they depend on to survive. Because here is what a dog's entire world is. Two people, the space they share, the specific gravity of two humans who belong together. That structure is the dog's security, which means they are not passive observers of your relationship. They are residents of it. Before a relationship ends, the routines are usually the first thing to break. Shared meals stop. Bedtimes diverge. The morning rituals that structured the dog's day begin to erode. In animal behavior science, this is called environmental unpredictability, and it is one of the most reliable predictors of chronic stress in domestic animals. In 2019, researchers at the University of Vienna published findings on what they called social eavesdropping in domestic dogs. The study found that dogs don't just respond to their owner's emotional state in isolation. They actively monitor the relationship between their owner and other humans. Dogs that witnessed their owner's intense, cold, or conflict-laden interactions showed elevated stress indicators and, critically, began displaying what behaviorists describe as hypervigilance. They follow more, they check in more, they sleep closer. This isn't anxiety in the clinical sense. This is monitoring behavior, the specific attentiveness of an animal that has detected an anomaly in its habitat and is tracking it. In practical terms, your dog knows something is wrong weeks before you decide anything, weeks before the conversation, weeks before the boxes. Here is where the mechanical explanations start to feel insufficient. Scent changes, vocal stress, and routine disruptions give us a framework for what the dog is detecting. What they don't explain is the timing. Data from the University of Vienna tracked dogs living with couples whose relationships ended during the study period. The data showed, quietly, that the dogs in deteriorating relationships showed measurable stress indicator changes, on average, 6 to 8 weeks before the owners themselves officially rated their relationship as being in serious difficulty. The owners hadn't admitted it yet, to the researchers, to each other, possibly to themselves. The dog already knew, and then comes the grief. reduced appetite, searching behavior, going to places the absent person used to occupy and staying there, waiting at doors. But what researchers find consistently shattering is that this grief response often begins before the person leaves. Dogs begin showing signs of mourning a presence that has not yet disappeared. They don't know why relationships are complicated. They don't know that sometimes love isn't enough, but they show signs of mourning a structure that is slipping away, holding onto a world that is shrinking by the day. There is a moment that happens in a lot of homes, usually after the shouting has stopped, usually in the quiet, cold aftermath that follows. The dog walks into the room where one person is sitting alone, maybe crying, maybe staring at a wall, maybe just sitting in the dark. Several of the owners in the separation studies, when interviewed afterward, noticed the exact same thing unprompted. Looking back, they could see the precise moment their dog changed. The extra closeness, the watchfulness, they had noticed it at the time and assumed the dog was just being affectionate. They didn't understand, until the science explained it to them, that their dog hadn't just been being affectionate. Their dog had been holding vigil, lying beside them in the evenings, closer than usual, quieter than usual. Your dog had already understood what you were still hoping wasn't true, and they had decided, the way animals always decide, to stay anyway. She doesn't know what a divorce is. She doesn't understand the legal machinery of separation. She can't offer advice about lawyers or apartments, but she knows you're hurting, and that has always been enough. She was there for the beginning. She was there for the ending. And in the quiet room, as she puts her head on your lap, she promises you one thing. She'll be there for whatever comes next.